asking a question. We will now begin the meeting with a roll call of members.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of Regional Council. Please unmute and indicate if you are present. Mayor Anderson?
Here.
Thank you. Mayor Beck? Mayor Borowski?
Present.
Thank you. Mayor Bratcher?
Present.
Thank you. Mayor Crane?
Here.
Thank you. Jen Daniels?
Here.
Thank you. Mayor Eaton?
Here.
Thank you. Mayor Freeman? Mayor Friedel?
Present.
Thank you. Ann O'Brien is proxy for Kate Gallego, and I apologize, Vice Mayor.
Here.
Thank you. Governor Lewis?
Yeah.
Mayor Hartke?
Here.
Thank you. Chair Macio?
Present.
Thank you. Mayor Laval?
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you. Mayor Molina? Mayor Morris?
Present.
Thank you. Vice Chair Osborne? Mayor Pineda? Mayor Pizzillo?
Here.
Thank you. President Javier? President Patea? Mayor Rodriguez? Mayor
Present.
Oh, thank you. Mayor Sator? Mayor Shove? Mayor Sykes?
Here.
Thank you. Mayor Smith?
Mayor Shove is present.
Oh, thank you. Mayor Smith?
Here.
Thank you. Mayor Stanton?
Here.
Thank you. Supervisor Galvin? Supervisor Goodman?
Present.
Thank you. Mayor Wires?
I'm here.
Thank you. Mayor Wilson?
Here.
Thank you. Councilmember Jeff Brown is proxy for Mayor Wheatley.
I'm here.
Thank you. And Mayor Woods. Is there anyone that I missed? Madam Chair, we have quorum.
Great. Thanks so much. At this time, please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thank you so much. Our next item is number 3, which is call to the audience. And we do have one call to the audience by Miss Diane Barker. And I will move forward with staff to see if there's any other comments before we have Miss Barker speak.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have received no online written comments.
All right. Thanks so much, Miss Barker.
Yes, hi. And I'm Diane Barker. I've lived in the Valley for around half of my life, so I'm not going to tell you how many decades, but I congratulate our new chair, Hermosillo, and I'm looking forward to more integration out there in El Mirage. Ed Zerker and Kelly Taft knew what happened when I went out to promote and protect freedom of speech of one of the speakers in Surprise. And I got caught up in the infrastructure, which was very nice and Surprise, the bicycle pass. I went on the express bus with a bicycle, and then it got dark and I got caught in El Mirage, and well, the story was not good. I mean, you know, chased by dogs and everything, trying to find a bus stop. But I did make it out of there to the help of a citizen. And but I'm here to talk about the value of multimodal transportation. That's when I first started coming to MAG, and I would use transit, and I still do. And today, the last time at the meeting I was, the managers, I had no soles, but I have some shoes with soles. But I walk around in flat shoes, and I like to be stylish. I kind of looked around to see if there was anybody wearing heels today. And I did see some of our elected officials, you know, wearing them. And I think that coming back after COVID, you know, the dress code, you know, went back a little bit more formal. I'm a merchandising major from Ohio State, and I worked at Bloomingdale's and Marshall Fields and in the buying program. So I appreciate a little style, but it needs to be comfortable. And the reason I'm talking about this is that I believe that you can choose different modes, and some of them you're going to be on your feet, not just a gas pedal. and how you can do it. So I like to, Phil McNeely says, well, why don't you make like, podcast, or you make like a video and show, basic your life? Because obviously a lot of people aren't doing what I'm doing. And I did get my bus ticket. I'm supposed to talk also about 7. I oppose the fact that we're going ahead and using international for our heavy ozone problem. I'm here not only to promote, good economic development, but not at the expense of health. And particularly our children. Having been a bus driver for children, I know how the particulates and this air is really not good. So I oppose number 7, and you can let Lee Zeldin know that I do believe that he and all the rest of the people of the United States, and to preserve our country despite our divisions, we need multimodal and everybody responsible. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Barker. All right, we're going to move forward. MAG also provides the opportunity for members of the public to submit written comments via the MAG website. Any comments received 2 hours prior to the meeting have been shared with committee members in advance of the meeting for consideration and will be included in the formal meeting minutes. Staff, have we received any online written comments for the call to the audience?
Thank you, Madam Chair. We've received no online written comments.
All right, thanks so much. Okay, moving forward with item 4 for informational items. Items 4A through 4G are for information only. Does any member of the committee have any questions or request a presentation on any of these items?
Madam Chair,
Yes, Mayor Eden.
I have just a couple questions for items 4D and 4E. I don't know that necessarily a full presentation is required, maybe just an answer to the question.
All right, please move forward with the questions.
Okay, on 4D, on truck parking, the regional truck parking study. So just curious, real quick on that one. Our experience specifically in Florence, north of Florence in Pinal County, there's several locations right now that they're utilizing some truck parking, semi parking offside. Was Pinal County specifically and specifically Florence used in this study?
Madam Chair, members of Regional Council, thank you very much for your question. We have looked all over the MAG planning area when doing the study. However, we are primarily focused on addressing undesignated parking within the urban MAG environment at this time. We've previously done some studies here at MAG, as well as some studies have done at with ADOT that have primarily focused on rural communities. We look to build upon that, but the primary focus at this time for our study has been within.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Mayor,
No-
you know, I would add that if you would like us to talk to some of your staff and learn more about that, we can incorporate that into this effort. We're kind of in the information gathering stage, and Brian and the staff would be happy to talk to your folks about the specific areas you find of interest.
Okay, very good. And as we expand through that area, it may kind of help fix itself anyway. So I was just curious about that. And then on 4E, your Superstition Vistas transportation study update. So it does list the town of Florence in here. There's no projects south of Arizona Farms on the scoring form. Were there any other? It doesn't appear to be any projects that were identified there. I just wanted to touch base on that.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, thank you so much for the question. That is correct. And we can provide, any specific information about how the recommended networks for 2030 and 2050 would influence or impact the town of Florence. But just to note that the town of Florence was engaged throughout the study development and process to provide input on not only the assumptions, but the study recommendations.
Okay. All right. Very good. And do you have rough idea date wise when that was first started? We were kind of in an in-between area, in between some staff.
When the study
The
started.
study was done. Yeah.
Madam Chair and members of the committee, we began the study in 2023. We are currently finalizing the recommended networks. We'll have the final report prepared and ready later this fall. including, and I wanted to go back to your original question and visualizing the networks in my head, what may be of interest to the town of Florence. I did also want to note that the proposed north-south corridor is part of the recommendations in the 2050 network. That would obviously, that would travel through the town of Florence.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Madam Chair, that concludes my questions.
Thank you so much. And Hannah, it's very good to see you.
Thank you so much for your questions.
Thank you. All right. Are there any other comments, questions from the committee? All right. Hearing none. Next is the agenda item number 5, approval of the consent agenda. Items 5A through 5I are the consent agenda. Does any member of the committee have questions or request a presentation on any of the items? All right, hearing none. Prior to approval of the consent agenda, there is an opportunity for members of the public to comment on any item on the consent agenda. I have not received a request to speak from any member of the public for the consent agenda. Staff?
Thank you, Madam Chair. We've received no online written comments for the consent agenda.
All right, great. Thanks so much. All right, is there a motion to approve items 5A through 5I? I hear a first motion by Mayor Wires and a second motion by Mayor Harkey. We will have those participating in the meeting online take part in the voice vote by turning on their cameras and unmuting their audio. For those who cannot or do not want to turn on their cameras, staff will conduct a roll call vote. Members, please leave your cameras on until after the roll call vote. Can I have a voice vote of those in the room and those online? Those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Those opposed say nay. All right. Please leave your cameras on. Staff, can you take a roll call of the members participating virtually who did not turn on their camera?
Yes, Supervisor Goodman, is that you? And how do you vote?
All right, thanks so much. As staff iterated, the motion carries. We will move forward with the next item. All right. Item 6, items supposed to be heard are Arizona Institute for Education and the Economy. This item is on the agenda for information and discussion. When the Regional Council sunset the Economic Development Committee 2 years ago, we say that issues of importance to our region's economy and workforce would come directly to Regional Council when appropriate. Today, consistent with that direction, it is my honor to welcome a distinguished leader in Arizona's education and workforce landscape, Assistant Professor of Educational Leadership, Executive Director of NAU's Arizona Institute for Education and the Economy, and Special Advisor to the President on Pre-K through 12 initiatives, Dr. Chad Guestin. Dr. Guestin has been a driving force in advancing youth engagement and workforce development across the state. His work bridges education and economic opportunity, ensuring that students are not only prepared for academic success, but are equipped with the skills and pathways needed to thrive in today's workforce. As mayor of El Mirage and chair of this body, I share his commitment to investing in our youth and building strong partnerships that support lifelong learning and career readiness. We are grateful for his leadership and insight, and I'm pleased to welcome him to share the efforts that he and NAU are undertaking to invite mayors in collectively shaping a brighter future for Arizona students and communities. Thank you so much. You have the floor.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. As Mayor said, I'm Chad Guestin, excited to share a brief update today. And after this is all said and done, we're happy to even take some conversations offline if you think your local cities and towns want to engage in this work. Although as I look around the table and even online, we have been engaging with many of your local superintendents and chambers of commerce. I don't want to spend a lot of time on the Institute itself, but you see up here that we are designed to be a nonpartisan solutions institute. Yes, we run through Northern Arizona University, but we are committed, as you'll see in a moment, to working not only across Maricopa, but across the entire state with a wide group of stakeholders. What I'm here to talk about today is this, that we know these headlines. We know that in Arizona that we serve 1.1 million children, over 800,000 here in Maricopa County. And year after year, we see headlines like this that say that Arizona is behind. And there's a large group of people that are ready for these headlines to look very different in the future. And what we also say and what we know to be true is that there are many fierce debates that happen in Arizona about education, how much money we should spend on pre-K-12, higher ed, early childhood, what the right level of student and school choice looks like, how much money we should pay teachers, how do we navigate some of the challenges. And as you'll see here in a second, this broad coalition that we've been building across the state, which is why we're here today to invite mayors and local municipalities, that we're trying to frame our challenge very differently. And the challenge that we're trying to tackle is that the world is changing and education is not. And the reality is that as we think about public education, every day we send 1.1 million children and tens of thousands of educators into a box that we call school. And it looks, as you'll see in a second, largely the same way that it did many decades ago, even though everything else around schools have changed rapidly. And the reality is this, that when we first built this version of school, it matched what was happening outside of school. And today, if you tour schools all across Arizona and Maricopa, what you'll see is what's happening inside of schools and how they're structured largely look very different than what's happening outside of schools. And the challenge for us, big picture, is that not only that society has changed, but as you heard from Chairwoman Hermosillo, that education and workforce has dramatically changed. The way that we work, what we're preparing students for. And yet the challenge remains that schools remain stuck in a different decade. And in fact, these are transcripts from the 1930s, the 1960s, the 1980s, and 2024. Anyone want to guess? There's only two things that's changed. I won't actually call on anyone. Two things that have changed over 100 years. The only two things that have changed is that Arizona once offered a world language. It was just Latin. Today, you can take multiple languages. And the only other thing that has changed is the elective. And generation after generation, if you think about the structure of school and what we teach, the only thing that's changed, and by the way, we're doing it again in Arizona and across the country. As we see the boom of advanced manufacturing, as an example, what are we doing in Arizona? We're building more CTE and advanced manufacturing pathways, which is important. But what about the other 95% of the structure of school and preparing students for the future? And so we as an institute, but as you'll see in a moment, as a broad coalition that now spans across all 15 counties in Arizona, from government to education, et cetera, we're trying to tackle this problem and say, how can we collectively modernize Arizona's educational system to make sure that our graduates, our students are actually prepared for the society and the workforce of today, not the society and workforce of the last century. And as you see here, we believe that the only way to tackle this issue is actually together in a broad cross-sector alliance. And you see also right in the middle, we say that government at all levels. And as we started to build a broad coalition, of course, we started with pre-K-12 and higher ed and industry partners, as well as government at the state level. And the longer that we've gotten into this work, we realize how critically important it is that local government and local community is engaged in the future of education. In fact, I see the Mayor of Mesa came. I was presented to your Education and Workforce Committee just a few weeks ago, and we'll offer that to anyone to say that local government has to play a role as well. And in particular, we've been very clear that we believe that if we are going to reimagine what school looks like, it's going to be both top down and bottom up. That yes, there's going to be some broad work that has to happen at a statewide level, but ultimately local schools, local parents, local students, local educators, local industry will also have to be heavily engaged in this work. And so that would lead you to say, okay, where do you start? If you're actually going to try to modernize a broad system across an entire state, where do you start? And our starting point, as you see, is here. We're trying to reverse a systems first cycle that we've been stuck in for a year, for almost a generation, perhaps even longer. And that is, as you see, as society and technology and work change, it demands new skills and it demands new knowledge and it demands new mindsets and dispositions for our students. And what we typically do is we then go straight to the systems level and give it new requirements and give it new grad requirements and give it new statutes. And we start at the systems level. And then what then happens is then we go to our local schools and say, hey, teachers, principals, we need to adapt tomorrow. And that change very rarely actually gets all the way down to the student. And we're seeing that today, that when we think about the graduation rates of Arizona, the readiness of our students entering the workforce, the readiness of our students entering higher ed, even students trying to pass ASVAB to go in the military, we are not producing the outcomes that we know that our students and our parents demand, but also that our economy needs. And so what we've said as a broad coalition, this group now over 200, is that we want to reverse that cycle and first ask ourselves, as the world changes and as workforce changes, what does that actually mean for our students? What skills, what new knowledge do our students need? And only then can we say, then what does the future of a classroom and the future of a school look like? And then what does that then mean for the system? How do we modernize systems and structures across Arizona? And as a broad coalition, and this is what I want to just briefly share with you. And again, if you have more interest, happy to answer questions, but more interest after this, we are now reaching out to local cities across Arizona. Is that I want to share with you our first 3 big bets to lead this work. Number 1 is on a profile. Number 2 is on a playbook. Number 3 is on a sandbox. The first thing that we as a broad coalition across Arizona and across Maricopa have said, that step 1 is we want to recenter the purpose of education around the student. Right now, if you look at how schools are measured, how the system is measured, it's actually not about the individual student. It's actually about the system itself. And what we want to do, just you see here, just like business and industry, the first thing they do is they identify the product or service, and they drive all of their resources to building the greatest product or the greatest service. And we believe that is a fundamental shift that Arizona has to make. And I will also say that many local school districts have done the same. Not to continue to talk about Mesa, but they're an example. In fact, we have 2 team members here, Dr. Leanne Lindsay, who's a director of Ed Tech and Innovation, and Dr. Forlis, who's the former superintendent of Mesa, who's now superintendent in residence with the Institute. But a lot of your local school districts, as you may or may not know, have adopted what they call a portrait of a graduate. They say, we want to make sure that we've identified the type of graduate that Mesa wants, that Goodyear wants, that Carefree wants, that Chandler wants. So many of your local systems have adopted this profile of a graduate. And what we have been pursuing is, what would it look like to have a state level one? Big enough so that local systems have enough flexibility, but big enough to say, in Arizona, our commitment is to creating the greatest graduates in the country. And we've been building this profile for over a year. And I'll tell you, we've been building it not a small institute, but across Arizona. Thousands of students, parents, educators, industry leaders, local city, nonprofits, thousands of surveys and focus groups, hundreds of convenings and conversations. And this is an actual example that we met with 300 students from all across Arizona to make sure that we've also listened to students and what they think they need. And the result has been, and we're about a month away from finalizing what a statewide profile would look like. And as it's shaping up today, the statewide profile will be called the State 48 graduate profile. And I don't want to spend a ton of time, as many of your local school systems, those 8 essentials, have really clear knowledge and skills they're trying to build. And we actually agree, whether that's your knowledge and your literacy, making sure you have the digital fluency to navigate the technology of today, the right thinking, the right ability to manage, the right ability to teamwork. We've even looked at nearly every major industry's major job descriptions and what does industry need from work and workforce in the future. So we've built slowly over a year's period of time these 8 essentials. But the one thing I want to point out to you is that we've also heard very clearly that in Arizona, we have to stop pitting college versus career. And that students should actually have a future of their choosing, and that we should prepare them for the future. And so this profile is very clear that students that are walking across the stage in Arizona should be prepared for multiple futures and not one, and futures of their choosing. And as you see up here, it says that students should be prepared for 4 potential futures: enrolling in a post-secondary institution, being employed, we hope, in a very high-wage, sustainable career that leads them to economic mobility. Many of our students want to enlist in the military or enter into a season of service: Peace Corps, AmeriCorps, faith-based service. And we know that our economy demands a very entrepreneurial mindset, that many of our students want to launch their own nonprofit or for-profit or social justice type organization, on whatever perspective that might be. And so we've said very clearly that when students walk across the stage in this new profile, that they will be prepared for any one of those futures of their choosing. And by the way, these are not mutually exclusive. that some students in 10, 20 years might do 3 or 4 of these. But we have to guarantee that when they step out into that future, they're future-proof, no matter what happens when they walk across the stage. And so we've been building this. Of course, you can imagine the amount of work that takes place after around aligning standards and assessments and programs. But our starting point was to be very clear. We must prepare our students for multiple futures and equip them with the skills. And then the last couple of things that I want to share with you, because that would lead you to say, okay, that feels very top down. It's an incredible, exciting vision. But change really happens at the local level. It's going to take local school communities, nonprofit, local chambers, and businesses doing this work together. And we agree. And so as a broad coalition, we are working on 2 tools that we will give local community. One is actually legislation. But I wanted to share very briefly with you that how we talk about this work is school education has been stuck in school 1.0 since we all went to high school. And we want to get Arizona's educational system out of the traditional system that we've been in for many years that's preparing students largely for 1980, 1990. And School 2.0, we actually think is possible today without any law changes. In fact, as you may know, Arizona has some of the greatest schools in the country, many of them in your local school communities. And if you look at the descriptions, they're School 2.0. They found a way to integrate curriculum, real world learning, internships and externships, leveraging technology. We know School 2.0 is possible at the local level. And so as an institute, we have partnered with an organization you probably know very well, the Center for the Future of Arizona. And the Institute and CFA, in support of this broader coalition, we are going to publish an innovation playbook for the state of Arizona. That we will then roll out and hand out to the entire state to say, if you are a local community, local municipality that wants to partner with your local school system and you want to move out of 1.0 into 2.0, that we will actually give you a tool that not only provides for you a roadmap, but actual examples in Arizona of schools that are already beating the odds, where schools and local communities can go travel, see, study, and explore so they can see success in their own backyard and what's possible today. And then secondly, what we also know is that the future is largely unknown. And there are things that we probably have to radically reimagine. The future of graduation requirements, the future of college admissions, the future of, we don't exactly know what the future is going to look like in 2030, 2035, 2040. And in Arizona, as you may know, many of you know this well, we have what's known as a regulatory sandbox. It's the reason why Waymo is in Arizona. That if a business and industry or technology has a really incredible idea, that they can apply to test their new idea and a new school concept. And as we've worked with this coalition, especially our chambers and our CE groups, the number one question that we were asked was, why wouldn't we give education and workforce a sandbox as well? Why wouldn't we allow schools to try new concepts and new pathways and new partnerships that just aren't possible today? And so we have been, as a broader coalition, working on an actual piece of legislation called a sandbox for education and workforce. And ultimately, our vision, thinking about top down, bottom up, is that we cast a very bold vision that says that Arizona will produce the greatest graduates in the country, that we're tired of those headlines, but that we will give local school communities and local ecosystems a playbook and a sandbox and the support needed to say, it's time to get out of 1.0. And it's time to get into the future to prepare our students for whatever future they choose. And the final 2 things that I'll say to you today is that we also understand, and I'll go back a slide if it allows me to, we also know that artificial intelligence will play inevitably, whether we like AI or not, AI will play a role in the future of work and the economy and workforce, and therefore we have to be thinking about what that means for education. And so as an institute, we actually publish Arizona's artificial intelligence guidance for K-12, and are making sure that as we think about the future of school, we are thinking about the role of artificial intelligence, both the bad of AI and the good of AI. We're very clear there's an offense and a defense to play against artificial intelligence, but it is built into the conversations of the future of school. And then the final thing that I will say is, if at all you have interest in engaging, or you want to know, is your local superintendent and system involved? Is your local chamber of commerce or your local nonprofit sector engaged? If you have more questions, happy to answer today. We'd love to engage after. We'd love to get your local ecosystems engaged in this work. when the State 48 profile gets published later next month, we have organizations, nonprofits, government agencies that are committed to adopting the profile as the new North Star. And then ultimately, when it comes time to putting Playbook and Sandbox in your local communities, we would love local city support to say it's time to move Arizona into the future. And with that, Madam Chair, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Great. Thanks so much, Dr. Geston. Do any of the members have any questions or comments regarding the presentation or for Mr. Geston?
Madam Chair,
I do see Mayor.
Jen could go.
You want to do it?
Nothing here anymore. And that's no
I'm
fun
going
for
to
me.
see Mayor Freeman first, and then we'll go over to Jen Daniels.
Perfect.
Okay.
Well, thank you for pointing out Mesa. You know, we appreciate your partnership. And I think that stemmed from Dr. Forless to begin with, because with her advocacy as the former superintendent, she retired. I didn't know where she went, but now I know where she's at. But even in Mesa, we identified that education was one of the foundations in our community. And without a strong education and workforce and have championships on all different realms, we felt it's important. In fact, Mesa Public Schools, just to advocate for them, they have the Bezos Academy as well as the Polaris Academy. So they're doing different types of foundational educational operations within their Mesa Public Schools. So one thing I identify as a new mayor is that how can we make it and elevate it even more? And that's what we're doing today. So I would encourage NAU to continue to work lobbying for it with municipalities to make sure your footprint is felt in all of our communities. And Mesa stands ready to help do that with you. Because I think you're at MCC now. Is that right?
Well, we work with Maricopa Community College System
Okay.
quite a bit. In fact, was just with the chancellor this morning and yesterday of the Maricopa Community. But as you saw, hopefully on the slide, we have ASU, NAU, U of A, GCU, University of Phoenix, virtually every community college system across the state. Even though we're housed at NAU, as you can hopefully tell, our job is to serve Arizona and serve Arizona well across the state. And Madam Chair, one quick comment, I just want to thank you for Mesa, the incredible work that you're doing. When I presented to Mesa, I shared a quote from a mayor in Texas that said, although I may not be in charge of electricity of my city, when power goes out, I care about it. And so I may not be in charge of the children of my city, but I should care about them as well. And so I think the more cities and mayors and local government get engaged in this work, the stronger we'll all be.
That's all I have, Madam Chair.
Great. Thank you so much, Mayor and Dr. Geston. I'm going to go over to Jen Daniels.
Thank you, Chair Hermosillo. I love the audacity that you have to bring these new ideas to education and to formulate them into a plan. I'm fascinated by the work because I have 4 children that are uniquely different. I have one following a very traditional academic path. I have one that's in the Navy. I have one that is likely going to either go to trade school or start his own business as soon as he graduates this May. And I have one yet to be determined as far as what path she'll choose. And so I find it fascinating that we have this one size fits all education system that simply doesn't. And so I'm really, really grateful for the work I have found, both in my role as a mayor. We had some education initiatives in Gilbert, and sorry, Mayor Anderson, for stealing your thunder. This is your community now that I get to talk about, but 80,000 school-aged children in Gilbert, and that was 1/3 of our population. So obviously we care deeply about their path to success. How do we get parents on board? I feel like parents are often, I have to look myself in the mirror when I say this, is we are often an impediment to innovation, particularly in education. So what's the strategy to bring parents alongside and to be willing to take some risks as it relates to their child's education, recognizing that we're in
Madam Chair, and thank you so much for the comments. First of all, it sounds like your children fall into those 4 E's, some military, some, and then so I think we've captured very well. And by the way, they're all viable pathways. Second quick reaction is we share, and you're right about this one size fits all. We say 2 things. Number one, a reminder, this version of school actually wasn't meant to meet the needs of all. It was built a long time ago. And there's a reason why we have special education and gifted education and compensatory education. We've created all these other educations because the one size fits all actually doesn't meet the needs of all students. So I think as a parent, I'm a parent as well of a senior in high school and a senior in college. But your question was specifically around parents. In fact, this morning, my very first meeting was with a leader of a large parent organization answering that very question. We've been engaging parents, obviously, through surveys and focus groups. And I will tell you, we don't have the answer yet for how to engage parents, but we would also agree with you if we don't have students and we don't have parents and we don't have educators that are intimately engaged in this work. And I might argue parents maybe being the most important, to take risks, to even challenge the system with us. They're going to be a key component. So I can tell you as a team, as they know, we spend a lot of time thinking about what's the right level of engagement of all these stakeholders, parents being one of them. But again, they've been involved so far in the level, but not at the level we need them to be.
Great. Thanks so much. Ms. Daniels, Chair. Yes, Vice Mayor.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Augustin. As a former school board member, this was a timely presentation for me. I would congratulate you on the work that you're doing, and it is exciting to hear about future proofing our children who grow up and will have many more pathways than some of us did or do. But I have a couple of questions, and one is, does your team look at all at the current state statute on our dropout age? It is incredibly concerning to me that we still have a state statute that allows our children to voluntarily drop out at age 16, given all the technological ways they can get a degree today, or sorry, a high school diploma.
So, Madam Chair, actually, we have not talked about the dropout statute, but thank you for that reminder. We will have, and that's our job. That's why we built this broad coalition, that as we run into these big policy challenges, we want to be big enough and strong enough to challenge those very policies. So we took note and are happy to, that's a very good point. Why would we tell a 16-year-old that needs incredible skills for the future that you can be done early?
Thank you. And I very much appreciate that. I mean, I know we definitely were and are an agricultural state, and it was there for a reason, but things have grown. I also am excited about some data I saw with Helios that talks about kids who are involved in CTE programs and what that does to their high school graduation rates, but also their enrollment in university and success, or I should say not just universities, but certification programs. And so this is incredibly hopeful to me. There is a high school in Clark County that is based solely on different CTE programs and could be a model for something that would be helpful here in Arizona. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks so much.
And very quickly, Madam Chair and Vice Mayor, we're actually housed at Helios. The Institute is housed at Helios, so we get to see that data and immerse ourselves in agreed CTE programs. Students that engage in school that is relevant and challenging leads to much better outcomes post-high school.
Great. Thanks so much for that additional commentary. Are there any other comments or questions from the committee?
I believe we have Mayor Borowski online with her hand raised.
Okay, Mayor Borowski.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the presentation. I was very intrigued by it. I've already reached out to 2 school board members at SUSD. Are you currently working in that district at all?
Madam Chair, is that in Scottsdale?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Superintendent Menzel, as well as many of the school systems in Scottsdale, are engaged in this work.
Great. Great to hear. Well, I'd love to talk to you at some point in the near future, see how we can help.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks so much, Mayor Borowski. Anybody else from the committee? All right. Hearing none, we will proceed with item number 7. Thank you so much, Dr. Gustin. This item is on the agenda for approval and will be presented by Matt Poppin, Director of Environmental Planning. It is for Air Quality Update Clean Air Act Section 179B demonstration.
There we go. All right. Thank you, Madam
Thank you
Chair,
so much.
members of the Regional Council. Before I get going on my presentation, I do just want to acknowledge the work of the Regional Council that has been pretty much going on for 3 years now in the space of ozone and the challenges that we've had uniquely to meet this standard. If you can remember, we're struggling with 2 big challenges. One is 80% of the ozone that impacts our region is not generated from our region and is not controllable by us. And then we're also experiencing that the reductions we have been making year over year and local emissions have not resulted in ozone concentration reductions. So one tool to deal with that challenge is addressing international emissions. And so we really are thankful for their work that when Mayor Gallego was chair and having Assistant Administrator Joe Goffman come in to explain these issues, Mayor Harkey stepped in as well after that with inviting the Administrator Lee Zeldin to continue to work on these issues. And that's gotten us today where we're going to present this report for your acceptance. Okay, so just a quick reminder, what's the purpose of a 179B demonstration? It's to deal with international emissions. The Maricopa non-attainment area is currently classified as a moderate area, which means we were supposed to attain the EPA ozone standard on August 3rd, 2024. Our current ozone monitor data out there, we have a value of 80 parts per billion, which does not meet the standard. The standard is 70 parts per billion, so we're 10 parts per billion over that. What Clean Air Act Section 179B does, it allows us to maintain our status as a moderate area and not be reclassified to a stricter standard of serious if we can prove that we would have attained the standard back on August 3rd, 2024, but for emissions from international sources. And what I really want to highlight here is this doesn't, really why we wanted to avoid being reclassified to serious is because it wasn't going to help our air quality. We were still going to have these issues of trying to demonstrate attainment, and reclassification to serious would only put counterproductive sanctions on our business and industry and possibly limit highway funding that would increase congestion and make air quality worse. So by staying at moderate, it gives us the chance to focus on what we can do locally without having these unnecessary and counterproductive sanctions and control measures that would come with being serious. But let me jump into the status. So this is where we are currently. All technical analysis have been completed, and I want to go through some of those results with you today. And we put those all in our report that was in the agenda packet, and that report is before you for acceptance and submittal to the EPA for their approval. EPA is currently under a proposed consent decree where they have to take action by February 3rd of 2026 on whether or not they're going to reclassify us to moderate or serious. EPA approval of this demonstration before that timeline will allow them to keep us at moderate. What we're hearing from EPA is once we submit this to them, they're going to take proposed action in November and hopefully finalize it in January before they have to meet this court-ordered deadline with the Center for Biological Diversity. So there's a couple analyses in this demonstration that I want to walk you through. This was another thing the Regional Council authorized. You authorized $250,000 for us to work with Ramble to do this technical study. Ramble has also produced these studies for Imperial County and Utah. EPA actually approved the work in Imperial County earlier that showed that Mexican emissions was causing the ozone concentrations in Imperial County. But what Ramble has done, their primary method is called something called source apportionment. There's a lot of technical words up there, but really what that does is we're able to put a little tracer on international emissions, and we can trace the impact of those emissions to each non-attainment area monitor in our area. So we can see the impact that international emissions have at each of our 25 monitors in the non-attainment area. And we're really focused on man-made international emissions. We did not include natural emissions, just man-made international. So here's the results, and this is our primary analysis that we're submitting to EPA. When you take all of our non-attainment area monitors, you average up all the concentrations across those 25 monitors, we're at a concentration of 75 parts per billion, so 5 parts per billion over the standard. When you ask the model to exclude the impact of international emissions, that drops to 60 parts per billion. So on average, we're seeing that international emissions have a 15 part per billion impact on our ozone concentration. One of the other things we looked at in the study was the impact of wildfires, because we know wildfires artificially inflate our ozone values as well. So that second line is looking at the average of all monitors when you take out wildfires. So it drops our starting point to 73, but the impact of international emissions is still about 15 parts per billion. And then EPA requires us to look at our worst performing monitor. So our worst performing monitor produces that ozone concentration of 80 parts per billion, that third line. So when we look at the impact just to that monitor, you exclude international emissions, it gets us down to 66, 4 parts per billion below the standard, an average impact of 14 parts per billion. So attainment of the standard can be demonstrated when international emissions are removed. So in addition to this work, well, let me expand on this a little bit. Here's the day-by-day impact that the model is producing. So starting on the left of this chart, we have April 1st, and it goes all the way to September 30th. And we have 2 categories that the model is tracking. Dark orange is the contribution from Asia or intercontinental emissions. So these are emissions that are coming over from Asia, Europe, across the Pacific Ocean and impacting us. And the light orange is the Mexican contribution to our non-attainment area. And we see kind of 2 big patterns. From April to June, those intercontinental emissions dominate. That's kind of the standard jet stream flow of air that comes across. As we get into the monsoon season, when we know the winds shift and they come up from Mexico, they bring up that moisture, causes the monsoon storm. Mexico emissions have much more of an impact in those summer months. But this is a day-by-day impact of what international is contributing. On average, again, at all the monitors, it's about 15 parts per billion from the combination of Mexico and Asia intercontinental. One of the questions we get is, okay, that's great, Matt, but this is modeling. Can we trust the modeling, or is this computer just spitting out numbers? So one of the things we do is we spend a lot of time, we invest heavily in our modeling staff to make sure our modeling is accurate. So what this graph is showing is the gray line is what is actually observed at the monitors on a day-by-day basis on average. And the red line is what our model is predicting. So while it's not perfect, our model is having really great correlation with observed concentrations versus predicted concentrations, one of the best we've seen throughout the country. So this allows us to put a high confidence in the modeling results that were done by Ramble and the modeling results that we did in-house as well. So yes, we really believe that modeling performance is representative of observed concentrations. So what are some other analyses besides modeling that we also did to support these efforts? One, we looked at the modeling that EPA did. EPA did the same exercise back in 2021. And at that time, they estimated that the impact to the Maricopa non-attainment area was 8.5 parts per billion. EPA was a lot more conservative in their modeling. They had about 5 parts per billion that they couldn't assign to domestic or international. So that number could be as high as 13, which would be pretty close to our 15. But if we take their minimum number of 8.5, that's what their minimum impact would be in 2020. Our ozone concentration in 2020 was 79, even with all the wildfires that were happening in that year. If you remove EPA's estimate from our 2020 estimate, we would have met the standard back in 2020 as well, based solely on EPA modeling. So our modeling and EPA modeling agree, which is a great supporting for our demonstration. The other thing we looked at is we really wanted to look at the days when exceedances occur, right? Not just on every single day, which that model looked at, but on the days when ozone is really high. So what the analysis discovered is there's 4 kind of main pathways that the air takes when it comes to Maricopa County on days that we exceed. So 3 of these 4 pathways indicate potential transport from Mexico. That southeast pathway, the west pathway, and the south. Exceedance days we can get transport from Mexico. And 2 of the 4 indicate potential air movement from both Asia intercontinental, both the north and the west. What we found is that 80% of the exceedance days pass over some part of Mexico. And if we remove the exceedance days impacted by wildfires and where the air passes over Mexico, that results in attainment at all of the standards except for one monitor. One monitor is at 71. So that's not even including the impact of Asia. If we were strictly just to look at Mexico, we would almost attain the standard. And one of the important reasons we look at Mexico is because EPA has already approved a demonstration for Mexico emissions with the county nearby in Imperial County, California. And because it does impact us, most of our exceedances are in July and August during that monsoon season. And then lastly, we also took a look at emissions growth, both within Maricopa County non-attainment area and Mexico. And what we found, as we presented to you in the past, our emissions decreased between 2017 and 2023. For example, local emissions decreased by 38% for NOx. But in that same period, northern Mexico emissions actually increased by 6% from 2017 to 2023. Mexico emissions are also 6 to 11 times higher than our emissions, even though they're only double the population of us. So this could be one of the reasons why, even though we're seeing reductions in local emissions, the increase in emissions in Mexico could be contributing also to our non-attainment issues. So with that, there's lots of other analyses included in the demonstration, but we really believe with that source apportionment modeling and the other analyses that there's overwhelming technical evidence that the non-attainment area would have attained the standard by August 3rd, but for the impact of man-made international emissions. So that concludes my presentation. I know this is on for action. Happy to take questions and comments from.
All right, thanks so much, Matt. Do any of the members have questions or comments? I see Mayor Harkey, and do we have anybody else who would like to be added to the queue? And then we have Mayor Pizzillo after. Okay, sounds great. Mayor Harkey?
Hey, Matt, good to see you again. Couple questions, comment. So learning from Mexico, that's very insightful, and being able to explain really the big question we've been asking is how can we continue to be contributing less to ozone, yet finding our monitors going up? Are there any other lessons we can learn from that? Any other highlights that might help us reduce ours by attributing to the things that we see there?
Yeah, thank you, Chair, Mayor Harkey. I think there are. I think one of the couple of things that we're excited about is this does give us a baseline now to help us better understand what is controllable for us. One of the things that has been happening this summer with the GLORE project is we had that piece of equipment called ozone LIDAR that can measure ozone from the ground level all the way up to the stratosphere. So we can see on a daily basis when ozone is more produced locally and when it's more transported in, whether it be from Asia or Mexico or from wildfires. So I think by keeping us at moderate, what this allows us to do is it allows us and our scientists, our modeling team to focus on that local data and try and come up and see, are there things we can do locally still that will have an impact while acknowledging the challenges that international emissions will continue to play for us. So those are some of the big lessons I think we've learned through this project.
And question number 2, you had mentioned that EPA will be needing to exempt us coming up here. Is that a one and done? Is that an annual? What does that mean moving ahead other than keeping us at moderate today?
Yes, Madam Chair, Mayor Harkey. Once EPA approves it, it stays in place for all time. You don't have to redo it again.
Okay, unless there's policy changes on their part.
Right, or if the Clean Air Act has changed. But currently, the current policy and act is you only have to demonstrate it once.
Okay, and then thirdly, just a comment. I really want to thank you for this work. I think this is extraordinary, groundbreaking work to be able to analyze that. I think it will only help us even further reduce it. We're not interested in being excused from having unhealthy air by any means, but by better understanding and the study that MAG introduced and found partners with Maricopa County ASU and businesses. I just think this is groundbreaking work that will again, not excuse us from saying we can rest, we don't need to do anything, but it'll help us better understand what you cited from Mexico, but also be able to work on what we can control without dinging and penalizing steps, freeways, and other things that will help us reduce congestion, as well as continue to be open for exciting businesses that also want to contribute to our economy without contributing to air pollution. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much, Mayor Harkey. Mayor Pizzillo?
You know, I pretty much echo his comments. I don't want to go ahead and repeat everything he's done, but I appreciate the fact the federal government allowed you to do this. And and all the data that you did and the research you did, and I'm sure the time and the stats to show that the stuff that's affecting us, a lot of it's coming outside the area. So again, thank your staff and all that who've done that work. I don't see any upside if they would have moved us up, as far as economic, I don't see any plus there at all. And the fact that now we hopefully it'll allow the economic development to continue on. And I agree with Mayor Harkey that we're going to continue to look to make sure we have the clean air. Well, we shouldn't be penalized for things that's coming outside of our area. So, and the fact that they looked at that and you came up with some data showing that, I really appreciate those efforts. Thank you.
Great. Thanks so much, Mayor Pizzillo. I'm going to, again, open it up to the rest of the committee if there's any other comments, questions that you should bring to the table regarding this item. Yes, Jen Daniels.
Thank you. Matt, thank you for all of your work. I have no doubt that there's lots of people that you work alongside, but it's been amazing to me to hear how many people are taking credit for your work over the last little while. And I just need you to know that we know at this table, who's been doing this heavy lift. So thank you. Again, no doubt that there's lots of people that care deeply and have opinions about the issue, but we know where it's coming from. So thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Echo those comments.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the council. I do just want to acknowledge our modeling staff and just thank you for investing in them. We have 5 modelers, which is more than the state has, which is more than a lot of other agencies have. We're really on the leading edge in terms of our modeling staff, and it shows itself in this quality of work. So thank you for your commitment to fund this work.
All right, thanks for that. All right, anybody else? Any other comments, questions for this item?
Thank you, Madam Chair. We've received no online comments.
Great. Thanks so much for that assistance. All right. Prior to voting, there is an opportunity for members of the public to comment. I have received one request to speak for this agenda item. That is Ms. Diane Barker. You did share some preluding comments regarding this item. However, you have the equal opportunity to state those comments now.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mayor. And also for enlightening us about this agenda, because Meg has had a tradition that you're able to speak call to the audience on other areas that are outside of the agenda. And so there was some confusion because I brought it up there. I was told I had to speak on this at call to the audience when I wanted to do my multimodal, and even entice you to ask me to do a cartwheel, which I can't do right now because I am under Banner's orthopedic surgeon facing possible surgery for complete torn rotator cuff. But I'm going to beat that. Okay, so on this item here, I still stand opposed because, I know Meg has a lot of planning and modeling and all this, and we've done a lot of conformity with Dean Giles. I am a person that does multimodal and take transit, but I don't think that we should allow transit to go exempt for air quality. And, we had a very bad accident with the light rail recently, and that ties up traffic. Every mode and person should be responsible for the contribution of negative air quality in Maricopa County and also Pinell. And so I still stand on this. I do often admire Meg's work, but I can tell you this is that ever since we've had to, even do the ride share and reduction, we used to start having people find another alternative by their license plate, and they wouldn't drive that day. But guess what? People didn't do that. So we're at a point where people don't volunteer for the greater good. And this is on beyond politics. This has to do with health of our area and our most vulnerable. Basically, we look at children and seniors. And during COVID, people didn't like it. They told me, "What are you doing outside? You know, and you're on your bicycle." I said, "There's no germ that's going to be out there at 114. I survived COVID without having people to protect grandma." I said, "This grandma's going to kick your ass."
All right. Thank you so much for that. All right.
Chair,
Yes.
sorry, before we take the vote.
Vice Mayor?
Thank you. I just wanted to put on the record that Phoenix is in support of this 179B demonstration. Within the next year, we would like MAG as the designated air quality planning agency to report to Regional Council how it will continue to research and develop a report that better understands the sources of ozone, not just from outside the region, but also locally. Increasing ozone concentrations in our region pose significant health risks, and we should be committed to finding solutions locally and within our control to improve our air quality. Thank you, Chair.
Great. Thanks so much for that added commentary, Vice Mayor O'Brien. I'm going to move really quick back to staff to finish off the online comments. Staff, have we received any online written comments for this agenda item?
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have not.
All right. Thanks so much. All right. Again, thank you so much, Vice Mayor, for that added commentary for this item. I'm going to move to request a motion. Is there a motion to accept the MAG 2025 Clean Air Act section
So move.
179B? We have a first motion by Mayor Harkey, a second motion by Mayor Freeman. All right. We will have those participating in the meeting online to take part in the voice vote. Members, please leave your cameras on until after the roll call vote. I'm going to pause very quickly to give everyone a chance to get on. All right. Can I have a voice vote of those in the room and those online? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. Those who oppose nay. All right. Please leave your cameras on. Staff can make a roll call of the members participating virtually. Not turn on their.
Mayor Smith, can you let us know how you vote?
Aye.
Thank you. And Supervisor Goodman?
Aye.
Thank you. Madam Chair, the motion passes.
Great. Thanks so much. As staff has indicated, the motion has passed. We will go forward with item number 8, which is a resolution of support for October as Domestic Violence Awareness Month. This item is on the agenda for approval and will be presented by Tempe Vice Mayor Doreen Garland. Garland?
Actually,
Oh, we're
St.
gonna-
Peter.
I see there's someone very different. So, but we do recognize Amy St. Peter, and she will be giving the presentation. Yes, take it away, Amy.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair and members of the council. Vice Mayor Garland does send her regrets. She's feeling unwell and she's not able to join us today, but she's very much in support of this item and had really looked forward to being here. The purpose of today's presentation then is to invite your participation and your support of events throughout October in honor of Domestic Violence Awareness Month, to offer you resources and support for your participation in these efforts, to provide a resolution of support for your action, and of course to take the group photo after the vote so that we can share that with everyone in support of our activities for Domestic Violence Awareness Month. I'm pleased to offer this presentation on behalf of the Community Initiatives Coordinating Committee. It was just formed with your vote earlier this year. I'm very pleased to be joined by Director Hamilton and Sandra Messina with the Governor's Office of Faith, Youth, and Family. In just a few moments, I'll speak to the Governor's commitment to addressing domestic violence. We know the devastation that domestic violence brings. Domestic violence can bring damage and even death to the victims. It destroys families. It threatens the safety and stability of communities. It decreases productivity at work and increases costs to healthcare and to criminal justice. We also know, too, that working together, we can be far more effective than if we're working alone, particularly in the area of domestic violence. We've seen the power of people coming together to make very significant and positive changes in the way that we respond to domestic violence as a region. This level of coordination and the pervasive nature of domestic violence makes this truly a regional issue. We've partnered with you for the past 26 years to strengthen that regional response to domestic violence. So each October, then, we raise awareness about domestic violence. But this year in particular, we're focusing on late life domestic violence. And that's due to the prevalence of late life domestic violence and in honor of the partnerships underway to address it. The National Council on Aging reports that rates of late life domestic violence are increasing. Before the pandemic, 1 in 10 older adults reported abuse. During the pandemic and since then, that rate has increased to 1 in 5 older adults, including in this region. Late life domestic violence is often harder to see. Older adults often are more isolated than other age groups, and that makes it harder to see and as a result, harder to address. That's why we continue to partner with the governor's office and with the Arizona Department of Economic Security to improve the way that the state responds to older adults and to the domestic violence that they experience. We're working together, thanks to a federal grant, to provide extra training and to strengthen the systems level response. I'm very honored now to be able to introduce you to Director Hamilton and Sandra Messina with the Governor's Office on Youth, Faith, and Family.
Great. Thank you so
Good
much.
afternoon, everyone. My name is Tanya Hamilton. I'm Director and Tribal Liaison of the Governor's Office of Faith and Family. Our office is a grant-making, grant-writing office overseeing 9 of the Governor's councils and commissions. We work in the upstream and prevention, education, and awareness. And one of the activities that we've been working on for several years through several different governors is that of our domestic violence education and awareness. So I want to turn it over to my project administrator, Sandra Messina, and she will share more information for you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Good afternoon. My name is Sandra Messina, and I serve as the program administrator for the Sexual Assault Services Program and the Children's Justice Act grant. I also oversee the Commission to Prevent Intimate Partner and Gender-Based Violence. Thank you for inviting me to share a few words about Lighting Arizona Purple. This is Arizona's statewide Domestic Violence Awareness Month campaign dedicated to amplifying the many resources available to survivors and giving community the opportunity to show their support. Over the years, Lighting Arizona Purple has taken many forms, from regional panel discussions to community gatherings. This year marks our 11th annual event, and we're excited to welcome you, your staff, and your community to join us. This event will include speakers, an awareness walk, and a resource fair. New this year, we are hosting a rock painting activity inspired by the phrase, "Heal when you find your rock." This represents the moment healing can begin for a survivor when they find someone they can trust. So I've shared I will share a digital copy of our flyer with Amy St. Peter. And I also brought some physical flyers. You're welcome to find them on the table right out this door. And you're welcome to share those with your community. And we truly hope to see you there. So thank you again for your time. And I look forward to seeing you on Saturday, October 4th, 2025. And registration begins at 8:30 a.m. Thank you, everyone.
Great. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much for joining us today. It's an honor to be able to work with you. So earlier this year, the Regional Domestic Violence Council dissolved and evolved into the Community Initiatives. They deployed an action team of subject matter experts to help us plan this year's awareness activities. The resolution of support on your agenda today for action is one way that we can promote awareness of domestic violence and one way that we can honor the courage of the victims, the survivors, and the people working diligently to deliver safety and justice. These are a few more ways that communities can participate in these activities and in Domestic Violence Awareness Month. We do hope that you'll consider what your community can do. I know a number of your communities are planning events already. We're here to support you. We do have some hard copy resources available for you at the table today and at the table just outside the doors. And if you go to the MAG website, you can download additional materials. We also do really hope that you'll let us know what activities you're planning so that we can promote those on the regional event calendar, which can be accessed at this QR code as well. You can download those resources and share with us your photos too. We'd love to be able to post those online. We want to thank you for all that you do to protect people. Know that we stand here ready to support you, and we are very grateful for the partnership that we have with you. That concludes my presentation, and after the vote today, we'll be taking that group photo. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you so much, Amy, Director Hamilton, and Ms. Messina for the presentation and all the comments. All right. Do any of the members have any questions or comments regarding this presentation?
I do.
Mayor Wires?
And I don't know who to address this question to. I've been coming here now for close to 13 years. Each year we do an awareness, we wear purple, we do all these different things. The thing that really struck me today is all the cities, the state, everybody doing this that I know of for at least the last 10 years or longer, it said that it's doubled in crisis. That's gotten twice as bad as it was. Why? I mean, because if it's getting twice as bad, maybe what we're doing isn't right. Maybe we should be doing something totally different. I don't know, but I don't want to sound bad, but it doesn't make sense to me.
Thank you very much, Mayor, members of the council. In answer to that, one of the reasons why abuse increased so much during the pandemic and hasn't necessarily eased up. So during the pandemic, we're told to shelter at home. We're told to stay safe, stay home. For many people, that was increasing the damage. It was increasing their risk because home was not a safe place. And so while they're being told to stay there because of the pandemic, staying at home meant that they were even more isolated and that they weren't able to receive assistance. Of course, during the pandemic, we also saw rates of stays at shelter decrease as well because people were so afraid of the pandemic, they figured that they would take their chances staying at home. And the social fabric that keeps us together, that keeps us safe, was damaged during the pandemic. We saw rates of volunteering go down significantly, for example. We saw attendance at congregations go down as well. We're still catching up, and we have not yet caught up. Those bonds that were broken haven't yet been repaired and healed in all instances. And so we need to take a different approach to this. We need to make sure that we can reach out to people and not just address the domestic violence, but also address the circumstances that allow it to continue. And we need to rebuild those social bonds.
Okay, a follow-up question. So I'm hearing two different things from you at the same time. In the slide, it said that it's twice as bad and getting worse. You just said that we're catching up.
I'm saying that we're starting to rebuild the connections in our communities. That hasn't necessarily yet resulted in the changes that we'd like to see in domestic violence, particularly with late life. But we're working towards that.
Okay. This is obviously, again, it just seems to me that everybody's missing something. Because it just seemed like there's a bigger thing going on that we don't, and I don't know what it is. Our culture, politics, I don't know. But it's something that we got to figure out because this isn't sustainable.
Agreed. And we share your commitment to that, and we share your concern as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mayor Wires. I'm going to go over to Jen Daniels and then over to Mayor Harkey.
I think I just have one other thought on this, and that is the uptick in reporting is actually a good thing as far as people who report who may not have previously been willing to report. And that's a statistic that is a little bit more difficult to track, except for that when we ask people, how long has this been going on? And it's been going on for a decade, and they are now reporting that and seeking out resources and help. So the data is only data. There's always a story to be told behind the data. And I think that's a key component of this. I don't know if it's getting worse or if people are reporting it more and seeking out resources because they know it's wrong. And so I think it's important for us to talk about openly how detrimental domestic violence is at all levels of life, whether we've had lots of presentations on teen domestic violence within dating, we've had, family and now elder topics. And I think it's really important for us to be calling out domestic violence for what it is, and then ensuring that we have resources available. And if more people are using the resources, perhaps that's a good thing because maybe they were silent before.
Yes.
And so I don't want us to skew the data. We need to know the story.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jen Daniels. That was very valuable insight to add to the conversation regarding the data that's being presented, because I do agree also there's a lot of stories that come with data and understanding the reasons why. All right, I'm going to move over to Mayor Harkey.
Thank you. And I do want to thank Mag for continuing to focus this. I think many of our communities do as well. Yesterday, I attended my 17th annual in Chandler, and we looked at technology as a tactic for abuse, for domestic abuse. And that in itself is a contributor that wasn't here years ago, of how people are able to better track and misuse those kind of things. So the challenge is before us, but I want to thank mayors for not turning a blind eye to this.
Great, thanks so much.
Madam Chair.
I see Mayor Eaton.
Yes, thank you so much. So two things. Well, and also echo what's been said already, and thank you to the MAG members as far as support. And also I want to thank you for the pen this morning. So I sat here as I went to go outside my norm of dressing myself this morning. I knew I have a blazer that's got purple in it, and I realized that I don't have it. So now I do. So I appreciate that. And thank you for what you do.
Thank you very
Great.
much.
Thanks so much for that. All right. Any other members with comments or questions regarding the presentation?
Thank you, Mayor.
All right, hearing none, we will move forward with the agenda. Prior to voting, there is an opportunity for members of the public to comment. I have received no request to speak for this agenda item, but I will move over to staff to ask if we have received any online written comments for this agenda item.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have not received any online comments.
All right, thanks so much. All right, is there a motion to approve the 2025 resolution of support for October as Domestic Violence Awareness Month?
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, I think I heard, who was it? Mayor Eaton? Okay, and then Mayor Wilson as a second. So we have first by Mayor Eaton and a second by Mayor Wilson. I'm going to give a chance to all those participating online to unmute yourself and turn on your cameras if you wish to turn on your cameras. And we will move over with a voice vote. I'm going to give everyone a second. And remember to please leave your cameras on until after the roll call vote is conducted. All right, can I have a voice vote of those in the room and those online? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, those who oppose say nay. All right, please leave your cameras on. Staff, can you please take a roll call of the members participating virtually who did not turn on their camera?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair.
No, never.
Councilmember Brown, how do you vote?
I never did.
Supervisor Goodman, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. Mayor Smith, how do you vote?
Aye.
Thank you. Madam Chair, the motion passes.
All right, thanks so much. All right, as mentioned earlier, we are going to take a photo for this item. So I'm going to invite everyone that's from the board, regional council to go in front of the in front of our seating arrangement to take a photo. We're going to take it very quickly and then come back to continue the agenda as presented. Thanks.
Go. Should have asked me last year.
Where would you like to go? You get a new shirt for that? You just owned it. Love it. I only own one. Hi. How are you? Congratulations. I just saw you at the finish.
Cowboy hats and boots. Just be the book is. You want to pull it first?
They're right here. They're here. I'm going to ask representatives from the, oh, there's not any left. Okay. Just kidding. If, Max Bass is wearing purple, if you like to join. Put you on the spot there. You weren't. There you go. Yeah, there you go. Thanks so much. Right.
All right, thanks so much to everyone participating virtually, for all the patience. We're getting back into our seats to continue the agenda as presented.
Mayor, if I might, in the interest of time that we've gone over, because you've had a lot of good engagement with our previous items,
Yes.
this next item is not time sensitive, and we can move this, to October for presentation, so we can keep the meeting on schedule.
Perfect. Sounds good to me, and I'm sure others would agree as well. We're going to go ahead and defer item number 9 to next month's meeting. And we're going to go ahead and move forward with item number 10, which is the executive director's report. But I do have some commentary before giving it over to our executive director, Ed Zerker. All right. So before we hear the executive director's report, I'd like to take a minute to talk about the next 7 weeks at MAG. As members of the regional council, we have all been informed that Executive Director Ed Zerker has been hired to be the next city manager of Phoenix starting in November. With Ed's upcoming departure from MAG on November 3rd, we must identify his replacement. We are fortunate that Ed has spent the last 2.5 years building an outstanding team at MAG. I know we can expect an orderly transition, and the wonderful MAG staff will not miss a beat. To initiate the replacement process, I am calling a special meeting of the executive committee next Tuesday, September 30th at noon. At that time, we will deliberate and make decisions on next steps for the position. After the meeting on Tuesday, I will inform the regional council of any action taken by the executive committee. Any action taken will be posted and presented for ratification at the next regularly scheduled meeting of the regional council on October 22nd. If you have any thoughts, questions, or suggestions, please reach out to me or a member of the executive committee between now and next Tuesday. As chair, I appreciate any insights you would like to share. As a reminder, my colleagues on the executive committee are Mayor Freeman, Mayor Gallego, Mayor Harkey, Mayor Osborne, Mayor Wires, and Mayor Wheatley. Now, let's go to the executive director's report. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chair Macia, members of the committee, for that. And yes, I will be here for a few more weeks. I'll see you at next month's meeting. It's been a pleasure working with you, and I'm going to enjoy running through the tape into November with you for that transition. Lots of things going on here. First, Morning Scoop at the Arizona Capital Times featured our very own Carefree Mayor John Crane, who is a panelist talking about water, Colorado River water specifically. And so that's a very important topic. Thank you for doing that, Mayor Crane. Next, we held an open house in Gila Bend, working on corridor development there on Pima Street, which is actually SR 85, and doing some work with Mayor Sykes and the staff there to identify strategy to improve operations there. Many of us from this part of the valley know that as the way to get to Interstate 8, but for the people of Gila Bend, it's how they live and work. And so we're doing some work with them on that. Next. Generally speaking, where we've been this month, our staff and myself have been different places. Cave Creek, Gila Bend, Maricopa, Queen Creek, and Tolleson are all places we presented to either to the public or to mayor and city council. And we're just always privileged to come and visit you in your communities and present what we're working on. So if you have things you'd like us to do, please let us know. Continuing, national recognition for MAG, this time from the Association of Metropolitan Planning Organizations. Again, there's an association for everything. We are a member of the AMPO, and they recognized with 6 national awards this year at their conference. MAG received 2 of those. First is an award for the work done on Prop 479, the planning there. That they recognize the work done here at MAG to do that, and is the winner for outstanding overall achievement for a large metropolitan planning organization. It's just great confirmation of the work done here. I want to commend Audra Kester Thomas, John Bullen on behalf of all of our staff at MAG who worked on that with you to get that done. Secondly, want to recognize the second award was our very own Arminta Syed. Arminta, stand up for a minute. I'm going to embarrass Arminta. She's very shy. You just have to stand up and then sit down. So I just need to see you. Okay. A Rising Professional Award, the single one awarded. So she was the Rising Professional among metropolitan planning organizations for the entire United States, given to a professional early in their career to celebrate significant achievement and commitment to the core knowledge, impact, and collaboration tenets of metropolitan planning organizations. You all are familiar with Arminta's work, including management of the freeway program, the transit life cycle program, and other fun activities like the Diamond Grind pilot program. So please join me in congratulating Arminta for that. Next, Matt mentioned this, but we do have significant brain power and firepower in our modeling group, and that is due to you giving us the resources to employ a tremendous team of modelers. Three of them, Daeyun Yu, Yang Zhaopeng, and Haidong Zhu, were on our behalf in Minneapolis for what they call the MOMO conference, Modeling Mobility Conference, premier conference for transportation modeling. They presented papers and gave presentations on that. 5 of them were selected for presentation. So kudos to the modeling team. And you saw the outcome of that work in something that's very practical for all of us. So congratulations to them. Next, following up on some action that you all took in the last 6 months to reconstitute and streamline our community initiatives committee into a community initiatives coordinating committee. That culminated in their first meeting that was held last week with great enthusiasm. You'll see the chair of that, Vice Mayor Garland from Tempe, and the vice chair, Councilmember Ellis from Chandler. They were donning purple there in honor of Domestic Violence Awareness Month. 15 elected officials serve on the committee, and we're looking forward to their work moving forward. Thank you, Amy, for staffing that committee. And finally, we can't let Mayor Hartke be the only one who we tracked around. So we tracked a little bit of what's going on with our chair, Mayor Hermosillo. She didn't know we were doing this. We tracked her with Senator Gallego at the West Valley Regional Chamber of Commerce, and celebrating with the city of El Mirage at the League of Cities and Towns annual conference. Their booth is always a highlight. Probably won't say why during work hours. No, it's the tequila, I think, right? No. So congratulations and thank you all for a great month at MAG.
All right. Thank you so much for all of that, all of those notes, and we will move forward. This item is on the agenda for information only. Mr. Zerker has presented the items, and congratulations to all of the folks who were highlighted. All right, thanks, Ed. If there are any questions from the members, please see Ed after the meeting. We're going to go ahead and move forward with item number 11. However, it is the legislative update, and we are not in session, so we are not going to have an update. So we will go ahead and proceed with item number 12, which is request for future agenda items. Are there any requests from the membership for an item to be added to a future agenda? No. All right, hearing none, the next agenda item is comments from the committee. Are there any comments or announcements from the membership? All right, hearing none, we're going to go ahead and adjourn this. The next meeting of the Regional Council will be on Wednesday, October 22nd of 2025 at 11:30 a.m. With no further business, today's meeting is adjourned. Thanks so much.